Hello, BTS lovers. Is this a statement that will change the course of the careers of two of the most prominent members of BTS? Why was HYBE's reaction so quick and calculating to Taehyung's one sentence? Is this a sign of a major overhaul in the group's internal structure, or does it hint at something more emotional and deeper? Today, the K-pop world is again rocked by a statement that was never anticipated. Kim Taehyung, better known by his stage name, V of BTS, finally publicly mentioned Jungkook in an official interview that was broadcast limited to local media in Seoul. In short sentences, but full of emotional charge and deep interpretation, Taehyung not only reveals something personal, but also indirectly snaps the future direction of BTS and the dynamics of relationships between its members. Jungkook is not just a brother. He is a reflection of all the things I couldn't say all along, Taehyung said with a serious expression that is rarely seen outside the stage. This statement is not only surprising because of their closeness, which has often been considered a matter of course by the public. What's surprising is the current context. BTS is in a crucial hiatus phase of group activity, with some members serving in the military and others focusing on solo projects. But the most surprising thing was not what Taehyung said. The reaction from HYBE, the agency that oversees BTS, came less than an hour after excerpts of the interview went viral on social media and online. In an official statement, HYBE confirmed that they appreciate the maturity and openness of Taehyung, but also added that talking about the personal dynamics between the members will be part of the internal evaluation for BTS future alignment. For some fans, this sentence hints at more than just a professional response. Is HYBE starting to open up space for BTS restructuring? Or is this part of a strategy of shaping a new narrative ahead of the group's full return in 2026 after all members have completed their military service? Behind HYBE's brief and diplomatic statements, tensions arose among ARMY BTS's global fanbase. On Platform X, formerly Twitter, the hashtags #TeamAboutJungkook and #HYBE statement dominated the world's trending topics within 15 minutes of the news. Many fans interpreted Taehyung's statement as a form of emotional uneasiness, as a representation of internal pressure that was never shown publicly. If Taehyung talks like that, it means something very deep is going on, wrote a Brazilian X user. Another added, "Is this his way of asking us to take Jungkook more seriously than we thought?" An internal source from the South Korean entertainment industry revealed to local media that the interview had actually been recorded a few weeks earlier, but was only scheduled to air today. This led to speculation that the timing of its publication was not accidental, but part of an already designed narrative. More interestingly, this interview comes just a few days after the issue emerged that Jungkook was in a career pause situation. Some of his schedules were canceled without detailed explanation, and his online activity dropped dramatically. While there is no official statement that Jungkook is facing a problem, many believe that something is going on behind the scenes, something big enough to trigger a reaction from a group mate of Taehyung's caliber. In the same interview, Taehyung also touched on general group dynamics. "When we grew up together as BTS, we weren't just co-workers. We were witnesses of the deepest versions of each other. But it also means we know what's not being said," he said. This sentence adds a new layer of interpretation to the previous statement about Jungkook. Is this a hint that something has been hidden from the public, or even from the fans? Meanwhile, HYBE, in an impromptu press conference held this afternoon at their headquarters in Yongsan, said that the sustainability of BTS as a group and as individuals is under thorough strategic discussion. They stressed that both Taehyung and Jungkook remain in active management structures, but the space for personal exploration is also being expanded according to Vision 2026. This statement reinforces the assumption that the agency is reviewing its strategy against the two most popular members of the group. In a market analysis released by Korea Creative Content Agency, BTS is still HYBE's main asset, but trends show that global fandom is now increasingly fragmented based on individual biases. In other words, fans follow each member's solo activities more intensely than the collective as a group. Some analysts consider that this could be the beginning of BTS's permanent transformation as a more flexible entertainment entity. The old model of the boy group as a homogeneous unit began to be shifted with an individualization approach that is more relevant to the digital age. In this context, Taehyung's statement and HYBE's response can be considered as a signal of the coming of a new era of BTS, an era where individuality is not only accepted but also celebrated. However, not all fans welcomed this development. Many feared that the individualization narrative would undermine BTS's sense of solidarity and uniqueness as a group. A senior fan wrote on the DC Inside forum, "We love them as a whole. If they become too separate, then the core of BTS will be lost." Back on Jungkook, until now there's been no official statement from him. His social media accounts remain silent. However, some fans detected changes in subtitles and bio on some platforms that they thought were not just aesthetic, but reflected mood swings. In the international ARMY community, discussions about mental health, career pressure, and personal balance are starting to resurface, especially after the last 2 years were marked by confessions from several BTS members about the burden they have borne since their debut. It is undeniable that this moment is a point of reflection not only for Taehyung and Jungkook, but also for the entire South Korean entertainment industry. Over the years, the K-pop system has been built on the basis of collective discipline and a consistent group image. However, as seen in recent statements, that paradigm is beginning to falter. An internal meeting leaked to the media. One of HYBE's executives stated that 2026 is the year of restart, the year in which BTS will return as a group, but with a more mature and different approach. This further reinforces speculation that everything that happened today, Taehyung's statement, Jungkook's pause, and HYBE's response, was part of the process leading up to the Great Transformation. However, one thing remains unanswered for sure. Was all this really planned, or was it purely a spontaneous reaction to the emotional dynamics that had been restrained behind the stage? And in the end, the biggest question remains hanging. What really happened between Taehyung and Jungkook, and to what extent will it affect BTS's future? Before the public was shocked by Taehyung's touching remarks about Jungkook, various small signs had surfaced, yet escaped the attention of most mainstream media. In an earlier interview in April 2025 with French magazine Madame Figaro, Taehyung briefly revealed that being silent doesn't mean not feeling. The quote is perceived by many as an ordinary philosophical statement. But after the latest context, the quote looks like a form of indirect communication over something that cannot be expressed clearly. Days before the interview aired, Jungkook's official social media accounts stopped all updates. The Japanese album promotion schedule, which was originally announced at the beginning of the month, was suddenly cancelled by the management. There is no clarification. There is no substitute. Even official activities that were usually controlled by the HYBE team, such as Instagram reposts, were stopped. This condition is not without precedent. The K-pop industry is known to be very close to internal conflicts. But the cover-up prompted the public to examine the small signs, which are sometimes more truthful than official statements. The change in digital communication patterns of artists is becoming one of the important indicators for hardline fans and industry observers. Interestingly, in the same period, Taehyung was even more vocal. She appears in various magazine photo shoots, attends art events in Europe, and actively interacts with the public through a personal account. In each of these appearances, there is one striking similarity. There is not a single reference or open interaction with Jungkook, in contrast to previous trends in which the two often mentioned each other or were seen together on screen as well as behind scenes. The big question arises, is there a shift in personal relationships? Are they both emotionally distant? Or is there a much more complex internal dynamic, one that involves management decisions, personal pressure, to the agency's long-term projections?